Hey yo guys, how are you? So if you're watching this video, I'm assuming you've already watched portfolio review on the YouTube channel. If you've not, I recommend you go watch that first. Now in this video, you can find the rest of the conversation that I had with Viviano, again filled with some amazing insights. So without further ado, let's get started. The thing that you were talking about, plain white background and not textured ones, did you mean that like portfolio throughout, or did you mean that in the cover page?
Well, that's a great question. First of all, the cover page is really important. And one of the portfolios I had sort of like a collaged images of architecture. Don't do that because that's not your work. And perhaps that can speak a little bit about that you're able to do a Photoshop collage. I don't really care. I'm going to see that inside. And then what happens if you use an image that is not yours? It's weird. If it is a project of yours, you're giving that too much importance. What I recommend is your name, big, with a nice typeface, something memorable. That's it. Don't do anything else to the cover. Now, what I mean by white background, I mean throughout the whole portfolio. It is always much nicer for the eye to have a white background. And I'm particularly speaking to that because changing to black backgrounds back and forth, like Anush does, is a little bit tiresome for the eye. So I think a light colored white background, beige or light gray, so you can use some whites on top of the gray, is always the most successful.
Also, so to me, I just sometimes just pick up on smaller details, and I might get lost in them and make too much of them. But I really like the fact, especially the image here, and to sort of give more emphasis to the sort of divisions between them and the grid between them. I love how there are white lines that run through the image that sort of keep the grid alive in the whole thing. And I think these small things really like make me want to look at a portfolio again and again, and so I really like that.
It's memorable, and I like the yellow used, but it becomes a bit of a logo, and you're not explaining what the project is. And if you're going to look at it back inside, then it kind of connects. I don't think too heavily against it. What I really like is the organization. What I really like is the index. The projects are like little cards, like little squares with their info. That's fantastic. I appreciate all the software skills. You can see the software skills applied in the portfolio. And it's nice to see also it's a fellow SciArc person. I saw that they took the summer program for visualization. So I remember that course. One more thing, sorry. That is why many times you send your portfolio and you don't get an email or a call back. It's because that's the jump. You're gonna send a lot of portfolios, you're gonna see the portfolio many times, but very seldomly will you get asked for an interview. This is the difference.
I remember during my internship, I remember I had a whole list on Excel, and I used to note down everything like sent portfolio, and then I had columns for called once, called twice, called one more time. So I had columns for everything where I just kept tabs on whether one thing was the very few firms actually told me that we're done with, we've taken somebody. Or but I also get it, the amount of portfolios that a firm gets, it is not possible to kind of contact every person maybe through email or everything and tell them that, hey, sorry, couldn't take you.
The standard response is, although we are very appreciative of your application, we're only able to contact the successful candidates.
Yeah.
That's the standard. It's on my website as well. And I'm going to give you a dirty little secret. Open application. That means if you go onto a website for a big studio, Herzog, MDRDV, Acom, Atkins, any of those, there is the open application process, which means there's no position open, but you can still send your application. All that is a mailing list. You're going to send your application in there. They're going to hold your portfolio. If a position comes up, you'll be in the pool of candidates and they'll review it internally. But you just gave away your email, so they can send you their newsletter. That's basically why it's there.
I didn't know architects needed mailing lists as well.
Oh, everybody needs a mailing list.
I would just like, I mean, to me, I found this as a composition to be nicely balanced. I see all the elements together and the colors together. I think they're working really well. As we see, as you said, portfolio design is a lot about graphic design, and I think in that sense, especially for this page, I think it's well done. But also, when we were talking about the different diagrams, I actually had gone through reading the project, and especially from this figure 1.1 to figure 4.2, for all of these eight, there is literally nothing written about them. And so, as I was going through the portfolio, I don't understand what they are, how they, and even point one and point two, the only difference I see is the sun is here and here, and that is the only difference that the whole thing makes. So for me, when I'm looking at these, I mean, I'm assuming if somebody goes deeper into the diagrams and want to understand this, looking at the portfolio, you can't, because there's nothing written about them. I like that at least for the lower ones we have something written, for the sections we have everything written, and I think that could have just the same thing applied to this 1.1 to 4.2 as well, would sort of make it much more, let's say, readable and understandable.
Yeah, I mean, it almost feels like it's filler, but if it is filler, it fills out the space graphically nicely. You know, the project here for me is not finalized, and these images, I don't see the final result. This is working through all the constraints of the site and the program to get to the project. And in that sense, for me, that's something that is very appreciated.
All right, so let's come to the next one, which is unfolding spaces.
I have to say this was one of my favorites. I think my favorite project from this portfolio. And, you know, it's funny to see it's semester 6. You're right in the middle of your 5-year bachelor. And the reason is because there is a very direct exploration of form through structure and understanding space between the folding of the material. And the folding of material eventually ends up in triangles. And so these triangles are creating space as they start folding on top of each other, next to each other, etc. And, you know, there's a clear relationship between spaces that he's seen before. There's intention of sketching these spaces and then trying to achieve that in a physical model, which I think is the only physical model or one of the two physical models in this whole portfolio. So I appreciate the conceptual thinking maintained throughout the project. You know, it started about folding space, became these folding triangles, and it maintains its concept from beginning to end. And I appreciate the photos of a physical model that prove that this concept and these drawings end up in actually this physical space in reality. So I think it's successfully presented. I think the plans work really well in white against a black background. Again,
Yeah.
not a fan of the black background in any case. I think it would be equally successful if you just invert it. However, very well presented. Urban analysis, analysis of form, how it gets shaped into this project. Don't understand each movement, but at least I know that there was an intention of showing the process, which is greatly appreciated. And the final result, I think, is really good.
I would just have liked to sort of see the model in its entirety to sort of understand what form the whole thing took overall. Because I really love how he's exploring within the photographs, you know, the different levels that you can see as well. But I would have loved if you could just see the whole thing in one go. That is the only thing I think was for me missing for the whole project.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think if we look at page 16, there's a plan of the whole project on the right. If we would have had that photo of the physical model in that same way, like in plan view, it would have been really good.
So again, so when you're looking at, I mean, when you're looking to hire people, it's not their concepts or their ideas that you might be looking for. It's mostly, as you said, you're looking for their skills. You're looking for what, let's say, what value they can provide to your firm as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that I'm not looking for concepts, you know, it's that that might be hard to express in a portfolio in a distilled way when you're a young architect, because again, your eye is developing and your mind is developing to understand what is purely conceptual. And usually when you get these very strong conceptual portfolios, they're very artistic. So you
Yeah,
have no idea really what their skill is, because one project might be a maquette, one project might be a drawing, and it's very strong conceptually, but you have no
yeah,
idea if they can make a Revit model, you know? So on the hiring
yeah.
side, yes, I am mostly interested in skills, and organization is a skill. Yeah, I want a person that it's organized, and that's going to read very clearly in the layout.
This sort of takes me the what you were talking about, because I love talking about concepts and ideas behind designs. So I ever since architecture school I've been in a habit of talking about designs. And there was this one point where I was in my internship, and so my the boss had sort of given me to research on things that you can do with metal cutting or CNC cutting, and because we were trying to go into product design and everything that we could do there, and I'd sort of scoured the internet for everything that was going on with metal cutting and CNC cutting and gathered different images, and I sort of presented this whole thing. And as the images came up and I was talking about the images, then the next image and the next image, there was some images in between where my boss like, okay, she saw it, she didn't like it, like she knew she didn't want to do it, and she was like, move on. I was like, no, 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 ma'am, let me explain. And then I went on to explain about the whole thing, like conceptually. And then she was listening to me, she like, and then as as I ended my whole thing, and she was like, let's move on. Okay.
You know, this happens a lot with my students when I'm reviewing their projects. At some point, when it's not a final presentation, obviously, I cut them off and I say, okay, stop, stop, stop. Is this all the slides that you have? And they're like, no, I have like 10 more. Flip through all of them right now. I want to see what, until where you got. Because there's a point where I see, okay, I know what the important stuff in this project to get tackled are. So I don't want to go into the detail of how you place the bed in the apartment when the structure of the building is not in place. So let's talk about the structure first, then we'll figure out where the bed goes.
Yeah.
So the broader scale of things. So perhaps when you're too close to the project because it's yours, you're very
Yeah.
close to the portfolio, you see these things. But from the outside, we see the whole thing, not the minutia. So that kind of stuff can happen. I'm really interested in conceptual, but conceptual in a portfolio for a potential team member is a hard thing to judge from a portfolio. I have no idea. I just want to mention that I love this image. I don't know why. And this is the thing. You want to catch people's eyes. And for me, this is a memorable image, and it's all the way into the back. And that's fine, but it catches my eye. I have no idea what the project is about. I'm not going to read the text, but I'm really in love with the image. The idea of this sort of inflatable, or what looks like an inflatable structure, it looks like a hot air balloon that is deployed in different environments, whether underwater, in the air, or coming out of a building. And I see a building on the right that looks like something from Paul Rudolph, and how this architectural element interacts with this building. So I have no idea what the project is about, but I'm compelled by the image. And this tells me that whoever drew this image and came up with this image is an interesting person.
The first two films were made for kids because we were all kids back then. And from the third film on, it sort of starts getting darker, darker, darker. By the time you come to sixth and seventh, it's like, what's happening?
How many are there?
The total of 8 films.
8. And the first
Yeah.
installment, from 0 to 10, what's your grade?
6.
And you're recommending it?
No, as in you're talking about the first film, right? Or you're talking about the whole series?
No, the first one.
Yeah, the first film is a child's film. I mean, it is. Yeah, but coming till the eighth film, it goes on to like a solid 9.5.
Okay, but I have
the
to
film-
watch 5 films before I get to that one. You're not doing a great job in selling this. Okay.
like as you go through her folio, you can see like usually in portfolios you're just maybe putting together all of your things that you've done in the past, but I think here she sort of took a step back, and even if there were visuals and everything ready for a project, I'm pretty sure they needed a bit of a touch up or altering them to sort of fit into her vision of her portfolio.
Absolutely. So the background works for her projects. I would not recommend it. For hers, it works, but it causes another problem. The PDF is very heavy and it's hard to go through it because it's heavy. And I've got like a very powerful processor and a lot of RAM here, and still it struggles to go back and forth quickly enough. So in the end, I think there needs to be a little more work of compressing the images and putting it together in a lighter PDF, which can be done with this background. Something just to keep in mind.
Again, it's again, I think it's the same that we can say it's the graphics are really strong in this portfolio throughout, and they speak out really well throughout the portfolio.
Now the collage technique that we see, the collage technique is applied in the first powerful image after the cover page. And then again in page 19 and 20, we see two collages with black and white human scales. One point about this image that looks like it's going down the steps on page 20, I get the feeling that the angles of the walls
I think it's
are not
going up.
It's going up?
Yeah, I think
Yes,
it's because the guy is higher than this one.
Well, yeah, the guy in the background. But if you see on the left, the wall is stepping down, right?
Yeah.
The left wall, okay. That wall and with the purple wall on the other side, they look to be skewed.
Yeah.
Now, you can argue that that's because it's a collage and it's informal, but I still think that vertical lines, even if it's a collage format, can be kept. There's no need to play around with that. I would try to look into that in these images.
All right, we can go over the next one as well, which is a humble hinterland. And even though this is a deviation from the format that she was carrying on till now, I think it's still done beautifully, and it's still so much a part of her portfolio. She's made it work. Here she's broken away from her format and her color schemes in the previous project, but still she's managed to sort of make it a part of the whole thing. And I think that is where the texture sort of she's used it, and I think that is why she might have used it. I think that really brings the whole thing together. What are your thoughts?
So I understand why she's doing it. The only thing here missing was a cover page to introduce technical drawing and sketches that she does at the end. And I think perhaps why she didn't do it, because I'm feeling that she's pretty smart, was it that maybe she felt that cover pages were for projects only, and this is not a project. This is showing off skills on drawing. I know there's a project in there somewhere, but that's not why she's placing it here. She's not placing it here so you can judge the design of this. She wants you to see her drawing skills on the technical side. So still a cover page introducing that topic would have been great. Also, if I were to take a speculation or assumption, I would say that perhaps Armilla is not very strong on, for example, Revit, because I haven't seen anything that has to do with Revit or a very elaborate axonometric drawing from a 3D detailed model. So I see her here trying to prove that she can do construction documents in CAD, both in plan, section, and detailing, which is great. However, my first question in an interview with her would be, can you do a BIM model, or how are you in BIM? And she probably would say, no, I am capable of doing that, but it's on my portfolio. Or she could say, well, I'm not very skilled at it, but I would want to learn. And both answers would be great. But that's what I'm thinking when I'm saying this portfolio in this way.
When you're looking at portfolios, do you sort of go and read what people have written in their portfolios, or usually you just skip over it?
Only if the project interests me design-wise. When the project doesn't captivate me, I just skip over, and I appreciate other things like layout, design skills, rendering qualities, model making techniques, and these kind of things, or overall graphic design skills. And I say, okay, check mark that. Let's see if there's a project that really catches my eye, and then I'll zoom in to see what the project was about. So let me just say that. That means that you don't know which project they're going to zoom into. So if they zoom into any project, the information needs to be there and it needs to be well written out, etc. You can only speculate which one will be the one that catches their attention more, but you never know. So they all need to be prepared.
And that was YouTube, guys. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, do give it a thumbs up. Do let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And thank you so much for being a patron. I will see you guys soon with another video. Bye-bye.